Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, I would like to thank the conference organizers for inviting me to present this lecture, which is titled by Smart Agriculture of Marginal Lands by using Saline agriculture system for improving the livelihood of local farmers in the Middle East. It is a review article. The objective of this lecture is to provide an overview on the potential of utilization of salt tolerant plants and halophyte as cash crop. And also it covers information on saline agriculture system and approaches for improving such kind of system. As we know, the Middle East is very arid and semi-arid region. Most of the countries are suffered from the same problem, such as high rate of population and poor water efficiency utilization, natural resource deterioration, desertification and salinization problem, which results mainly from the climate change impact. And this is the main problem in the whole world, the shortage of fresh water. As we know, salinity is a very huge problem facing most of the country in the Middle East, particularly saline soil. And the question is now, how could halophyte and salt tolerant plants be cash crops as cash crop or not? We have to identify the difference between the salt tolerant plant and halophyte. Salt tolerant plants that the plant can grow under certain levels of salinity from soil and irrigation water without serious effect on the production, while halophyte can grow on intensively on salt marshes, which is heavily saline lands with saline water without adverse effect on the plant production. So the salt tolerant plant has a certain level, can tolerate certain level of salinity, while halophyte is a plant can survive totally in saline atmosphere. I will draw your attention about some economic benefits and uses of halophytes, and I will focus on halophyte as a food for human. It is a source of starch and protein and vitamin and fat, and the most common one, Astratrobolium and Silicornia species. And also halophyte could be used as a source of feed for animal. It is a source of starch and protein and mineral, and the most common plant species in the region are Atriplex species, different Atriplex species, Nitraria retosa, Sueda fraticosa, Sueda monica, and Prosopis. And the other usages of halophyte is a source of wood and fiber and building and crates, and mainly the Tamarix species like Tamarix monilica, aminicola, and Tamarix aphylla, and mangrove constitute the major part of this plant. If we talk about halophyte as animal feeds, we will find around 2,000 halophytic plant species are identified in the Middle East region. The most common halophyte plants, around 16 plants, and they are grown everywhere in the Middle East, such as Nitraria, Artemisia, Sueda, Tamarix, Juncus, El-Hagi marorum, Holocninum, Zygophyllum, Atriplex, all this. We tested the chemical composition of some coastal plant in the Red Sea. I selected here the Red Sea because the environment of Red Sea in Egypt and Saudi Arabia and the other Red Sea countries are the same. So if we discuss that, so we'll find Avicennia marina and Rosninum glaucum and Suida monica constitute the major part of this plant population, which has enough protein to cover the requirements for animal. And this is the main halophyte species, and we also evaluated the palatability rate for sheep and goat and camel. As you can see, some plants are preferable for camels and others for sheep, and some are not eaten at all. Saltbush or Atriplex pneumolaria has a great importance for the livestock, and in different countries in the Middle East. We have determined the different Atriplex species, and you can see here the chemical composition and nutritive value showing that such plant species contain enough amount to cover the nutrients for animals. Concerning the salt-tolerant plants, we have introduced by the Desert Research Center or Center of Excellence for Saline Agriculture, we successfully introduced different forage crops, salt-tolerant crops, such as fodder beet, barley, safflower, triticale, and we assume that we could improve farmers' livelihood stressed by climate change through cultivation of halophyte and salt-tolerant fodder. How could we achieve that? Because such cultivation could produce mass production and mass forage production, which could be used as animal feed, in turn will produce animal products. These animal products will go directly for raising farmer income. The other side, such cultivation will increase seed production, which also could be a direct cash money go directly to the income of the farmers. So this is how to improve farmers through salt-tolerant plant. I will give you now some pictures about this salt-tolerant plant, such as Medicago arborea and barley. This table shows that the most common introduced halophyte and salt-tolerant plant as animal feed, and some of them are very rich in TDN and source of carbohydrate and crude protein. Okay, now we'll see how to improve the utilization of halophyte and salt-tolerant plants through specific approaches. We have tested these approaches as a research stage, and then it is now adopted. Most of these approaches have been adopted as the farmers living now, and it is an applied stage. The first one is introducing integrated management package such as leveling, fertilization, water drainage management packages, and seed and forage production. The second approach is intercropping halophyte with salt-tolerant fodder crops. And the third one, introducing strategic non-conventional crops, which is very important approach, particularly nowadays. And the fourth one is processing halophyte and salt-tolerant materials for food and feed production. This is an example for integrated management package to produce seed production. As you can see, seed rates, the row ratio, number of seedlings per hill, spacing, this and that. So each crop has a specific IMP package to teach the farmer, to be given to the farmer to apply these procedures to get a high production of such a plant. This is a very important activities related to saline agriculture, how to produce enough and sufficient seed production from different salt-tolerant plants, whether for food, whether for feed, for oil, for any different kind. At the beginning we have received several genotypes from several plant species from the International Center of Biosaline Agriculture in IGBA, and we have selected many genotypes to be tested at the research level. Then now it is adopted at the farmer level. Some of most important plants are corn, sorghum species, pearl millet, as you can see. Fodder beet is very popular by the farmers nowadays. Safflower as a source of oil, and fodder beet again. This is the main fodder crop now in this newly reclaimed area in Egypt, the Trifolium alexandrinum, Berseem, and you can see how much saline is the soil. And we tested the chemical composition and the fiber constituents of the most common grasses subjected to different water salinity, and you can see the high salinity and the medium salinity does not affect the crude protein and most of common nutrients. Another approach is introducing some irrigation drainage management practices. As you can see, this is the new technologies, and this is the drainage system. We have to modify the drainage system in areas suffering from high salinity because of high water table, and this is the drainage system, as you can see. This is the main another techniques for irrigation. We call it gated pipe irrigation system for pearl millet and the sorghum plant. Also for barley, we use drip irrigation and gated pipe, as you can see from these slides. Triticale also is used. Is cultivated using drip irrigation and gated. Each kind of this irrigation techniques was compared between each other to know which appropriate irrigation techniques for each plant species. Then we recommend at the end which plant and which irrigation system. This is another thing is the different rate of nitrogen fertilizers also tested at the research level, then applied or adopted among the farmers. Here is the package of water and the drainage system as for sorghum and pearl millet. Further crop production on the package for again, just to show the sprinkler system using sprinklers, and this is the gated pipe of irrigation for, and you can see the salt covered the soil in the left picture, and here, of course, there are some limitation of halophyte and salt-tone plant. If we use this plant as fodders. The main limitation is high ash content and high fiber constituents, particularly acid detergent lignin, high anti-nutritional factors such as tannins, alkaloids, and non-protein nitrogen, particularly for attributes. So we have to create a specific processing to maximize the utilization of such a plant and to overcome such constraints, and so we use physical treatments and sort of chopping, and dehydration sort of hay, anaerobic fermentation sort of silage, anaerobic and aerobic fermentation, and feed block, as we will see now. This is the feed materials which will be used for silage and other feed processing system. This is the silage technique. How can we make silage? How we teach the farmers using simple machine, and this is the same thing, silage processing with the farmers at the farm level. This is the other type of silage making, and sometimes we use some additives like urea, molasses, and zeolite, and this is one of the most common techniques, and the farmer like it very much. the cover steak processing because it's very simple and animal love it as it is very nutritious for the animal species. Other technique is the feed block processing. Using very simple machines to produce big stock of feed blocks based on the salt tolerant plant and the other agricultural residues in the farm. The other approach is intercropping half-fat with salt-tolerant fodder crops, so we can integrate or intercrop half-fat with such as atriplex with barrel millet or grasses. Sometimes we could intercrop annual forages with perennial or animal with annual. Other approach is using fish farm effluent to grow some half-fat, as you can see in the blue picture, to grow some barley or some fodder crops or some using this effluent. This is one of the most important approaches for using salt tolerant plant is for food production to solve the shortage of wheat production, particularly in countries suffering from wheat production. So we selected quinoa and barrel millet and oat as the most important crops. These different pictures for quinoa, different stage of cultivation. Why quinoa? Quinoa is to help in weight loss, quinoa to keep heart healthy, quinoa is very high in protein compared to wheat. Quinoa is high in fiber in comparison with wheat. So this kind of dishes made of quinoa, and we teach the farmers, the women, we teach the farmer to grow quinoa, and we teach women how to cook quinoa and different dishes like quinoa rice, egg muffin, quinoa salad, quinoa mahshi, quinoa basbousa, quinoa cake, quinoa meat products, and other things, other products from quinoa. This is how we are focused. We focus on women training to teach them how they make that. This is one of the success stories. One of the farmers finally was able to produce cheese, different kind of cheese at the farm, and this is also improve farmers' income through using milk for yogurt and the different kind of cheese. And so we have to establish the dairy milk production and the processing unit to produce hygienic milk and hygienic milk products. And this is one of the most important integrated model for saline agriculture. I assume that you have a groundwater with saline water, even 10,000 per million, and you have saline land. Then here you can use this effluent from the fish to grow some fodder crop here. So like this winter, in winter you grow barley, or in summer you grow barrel millet. So these plants could produce seeds. These seeds go directly to feed the poultry, or to feed the poultry, or to feed the human being. The poultry could be used for egg or meat, and also for human, and also these seeds could go directly to feed the animal, and the animal can also be fed on the fresh fodder crops. So it's integrated model for biosaline. I would suggest to apply this model in saline lands, which has the same saline resources. In conclusion, the utilization of fragile ecosystem resources impacted by climate change in the Middle East in a more sustainable integrated model is a must. Adapting such kind of integrated management package for forage production to be grown in saline environment integrated with livestock production is an opportunity to contribute to the local socioeconomic development in small farmers' livelihood. Therefore, it is important to replicate this model in countries of similar marginal region. Thank you very much for your kind attention.